TempahZone.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are watching this podcast right here or listening to this podcast right here, this is episode 74 of the TempahZone podcast with your host, me, Amir Max, and that's all facts, aka Young Stephen A, aka Mr. Versatile, aka AMC, aka the man in the myth, boy. Man, I've been doing this podcast for 2 years, all right? 2 years, okay? I feel good, man. I feel good. I feel accomplished. The work isn't done yet. The job ain't over. But I feel extremely accomplished, man. You know, I put the watch on just to feel, a little extra today. I ain't gonna front, man. I'm feeling good. I thought I was gonna feel the opposite of it today. People when they celebrate their birthday, they get sad. Because they're like, oh, shoot, I'm getting older. I'm not getting any younger. And they feel rushed to achieve things. I know that's like a birthday and comparing it to an anniversary. It's a little different, but I really feel extremely accomplished with 2 years, man. Because when I started this podcast, man, I thought very highly of it. I thought I could do a lot with it, but I wasn't realistic in my goals. And I was on the Golden Hours podcast with Connor Hallway. Shout out to him back in November, and we actually addressed that a lot on that podcast. A lot of things I addressed on that podcast, I'm not gonna shed light on today's episode. So if you want to check that out, definitely go and check that episode out. Amir Max's Platinum Hour, yeah, because I've been on that podcast twice. So yeah, shout out to Connor Hallway, man. I'll definitely be giving out some more shout outs throughout the episode since it's the 2-year anniversary, man. But yeah, I just, I feel very good about just the 2 years. But like I was saying, when I started off the podcast, man, it was, this podcast at first was music, sports news, and anything else that's cool news. That was like the slogan I was going with. But I had to realize I had to narrow it down a little bit. And I did that. I had to make those changes to it. And starting off with it, I hit the ground running with it. I wanted to make sure it was at the top of the line spot, PRX Podcast Garage, like paying mad money to do it there. I was doing it there for like 50 episodes, man. I did not ever do an episode outside of PRX Podcast Garage until episode 50. I was probably spending 50? I kind of forget. It's been a minute since I've done anything there. I haven't gone there all year. But yeah, it's a lot of money, man. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of money. Here I am pulling out my calculator because I'm an idiot. So it's a lot of money. Yeah, just over $2,000 I've spent on studio time. And I definitely want to mention that to say this. Here I am now recording episode 74 at my crib with a microphone I purchased. Obviously, I have this pretty expensive iMac. But these are things that I invested in. And now creating this content is going to be a whole lot easier. It's a whole lot quicker. Like, I'm recording this episode today on September 4th, 2020. And I'm going to have it out today. That's just some stuff that, I could have done that at PRX Podcast Garage, or if I'm doing it anywhere else separately, but I'm at home. Like, it's just going to be quicker to get the job done. So, that's definitely one thing I want to get out there for anyone, who's doing a podcast, man. Definitely invest in yourself. You don't need to have the top of the line things, but if you're willing to pay for it, by all means, do it. If you got the money to spend to make that happen, go for it. But I couldn't spend that money any longer. All that money I spent, I should have just invested in the things that I've already purchased. But yeah, back to the podcast starting off, man. I just wanted to hit the ground running with it and have everything be as high quality as possible. No knock to anyone doing podcasts now who aren't on like those major platforms. But when I see other podcasters out here, because in 2020, there's a lot of more podcasters than there was when I started in 2018. I feel like when I started my podcast in 2018, I was looked at crazy. Like, people still weren't truly on podcasting like the way they are now, man. Shoot, everyone, like, I feel like everyone has found like a couple of podcasts that they, can listen to an extent. They probably don't listen to podcasts like I do. I listen to a ton of podcasts now. And I can only imagine that it's the same for everyone else. They're starting to just grow into the podcast world more and more and more. But for me, man, when I see like actual podcasters, man, I feel like the podcast game has gotten so just competitive that, like, if you don't have video for your podcast, I can't take you that seriously. I just can't. This is episode 74. This is the 2-year anniversary. I'm going to keep it real on this episode. If you don't have video to your podcast, I'm not going to take you seriously, man. And it's just the same thing with music. Although I can kind of understand, like, if you're not on Apple Music or Spotify, those other platforms. But I can only assume how serious you are. I can only take you so seriously if you're only on SoundCloud and YouTube. Because it's 2020, man. It ain't that hard to get on Apple Music and Spotify. It's not. And I think a lot of people are applying these rules to themselves that they shouldn't have to worry about. Okay, you don't have exclusive rights to the beat, but cross that bridge when you get there, because you're not going to have to worry about exclusivity until that song, like, gets over, like, 500,000 streams. And do you expect that to happen? Unless you're promoting it the right way and you're doing something for that song where you do seeing that happen. I mean, I don't know what other reason why you wouldn't want to be on or try to get on Apple Music and Spotify. It's really easy. You know what I'm saying? And that's part of, honestly, like, part of the criteria I use with some artists I've had on. It's like, you're not on streaming platforms. You're only on SoundCloud. Like SoundCloud's dying off, man. Like these music trends, these podcast trends change, man. And it's part of the reason why, like, with my podcast, I had to, shift and transition with the times. I mean, my podcast has now been able to touch topics that I, in the past, was very reluctant on talking about. I mean, just anything regarding racism and sexism and, anything regarding, like, assault, like, just the messed up things that go on in this world. I was very reluctant talking about that because I was afraid of saying the wrong thing or pushing people away because I might have said something that was too political. But, you just have to adapt with the times, man. Definitely just got to roll with whatever is going on. When I was doing this podcast, man, I would have guests on that wouldn't want to talk about the news. They wouldn't want to talk about that stuff. So I had to adjust. I had to figure out that, okay, you don't want to talk about news. Maybe I should stop, just talking about news. And then I made the podcast specifically to interviewing the artists. But I had ran into a little bit of a brick wall with doing that. As much as I love having new guests on and meeting new people and getting myself out there and just promoting other people, I truly love spreading the word of other cool, great artists who are making dope music. I truly do that. I mean, I'm putting in too much work to not care about that. Like, obviously, this isn't some selfish thing I'm doing, and I definitely don't want people to think that. I mean, I am, I support, all the Boston scene in any way like that. But I'm digressing a little bit, just a little bit right here. What I want to say is that with the podcast, I was asking the same questions with a lot of guests, and that wasn't cool. And I noticed I was starting to lose some viewership from that. And it wasn't until after it wasn't until like the quarantine hit and I really pumped the brakes, took a little hiatus, and came back to where I started to see things feel better again, feel fun again. Because for a time I wasn't really having fun with this podcast, man. Not as much fun as I was in when I first started off, and that could just be just from really understanding how much of a grind it is, really understanding just how much goes into it. This podcast stuff is not easy, y'all. This is a very very hard job to take on, and I know I see a lot of podcasters out here with teams and people helping out. It's just me, man. I'm a one-man team in this. And I don't know if I've said this on another episode. I don't know if I'm repeating myself. But I produce edit, record, publish everything that you see with this podcast. Everything. So, with that being the case, man, you know, I'm taking on a lot. I really am, and you know, I beat myself up for, you know, taking hiatuses and you know, skipping a week. But I mean, I'm only one person, man, and I can only do so much. But you know, you know, I feel like anyone with a work ethic is just a little crazy, and so for me, when I take these breaks, man, I come back and I gotta keep it going and rolling. And you know, I said last week I didn't have an episode, and I'm gonna have 2 out for you this week. I mean, today I wasn't even really feeling like doing an episode. I never record on a Friday, you know, but it's the 2-year anniversary. I said I was gonna have 2 episodes out this week, and I want to be a man of my word. You know, I am very, you know, particular in terms of a work ethic. I am, you know, a firm believer that if you can have all the talent in the world, man, but if your work ethic ain't there, then what does it even matter? What does it even matter? And so I am very, very hard on myself when it comes to these things, man. When I take these breaks, I am very, you know, aware of the fact that when I come back from this week off or a hiatus, I gotta make sure I come back with a good product, a better product than before. Cause it's like, yo, why were you gone for so long? Like, ain't this what you do? Like, and I think that's the thing artists have to understand, man, is that we are putting ourselves out there to do this. We are the ones that decided to say that this is what we're going to do. And so if you're an artist and you're putting yourself out there and there's a bunch of criticism, you, for the most part, should not be mad at the negative criticism. And I know that can be a little tricky. Like, I know more artists, if they're watching other artists, should be better with constructive criticism and to not just bash. Even though that is criticism, it's just not good criticism. It's just harsh criticism. You know, as artists, as creatives, we have to understand you are putting yourself out there to the world. You are leaving yourself out there for people to judge you. And so whatever that result is that result, man. You know, the freedom of speech, man, the First Amendment, you know what I mean? People have the right to tell you you're trash. You put yourself out there. People have the right to praise you and obsess over you. Don't find that weird. You're the one that exposed yourself and put yourself out there and are saying, if you're this type of artist or a certain type of artist, you are saying things in the mind that most people would never say. So therefore, when you put this song out, people are going to judge because people in this world don't open up, first of all. Like, a lot of people in this world don't open up like artists do. Artists, we're different, man. We're just different. We're more emotional. We're more compassionate. And there's probably some things we lack that I'm not realizing. Because there's some things that artists we lack in. Like, I'd say artists lack understanding in others' opinions. Because there's a lot of artists out there. The toughest artists, the best artists, you judge them, criticize them, and it's World War III, man. There's certain artists you just, even if you hint at something of not a compliment, some artists just are not about that, man. And in this game, you gotta be hardened. You gotta be tough. Because when I started this podcast, you know, I really felt I was exposing myself, man, because here I am just talking about not only news and not only with other artists, but talking about my life and putting myself out there, my opinions and my beliefs. And I'm opening myself to others to judge me. And I, in the past, have, you know, while I have seen a bunch of compliments from people, you know, comparing me to a Charlemagne the God or Stephen A. Smith. I mean, that stuff gives me goosebumps, man. I got goosebumps right now just being compared to 2 guys that I, like, salute to, man. But I have in the past got people told me, yo, I ain't trying to hear this blah, blah, blah. Or, yo, this dude is trash at interviewing. Don't have him interview me like I was going to interview your trash ass music anyway, buddy. Psh. don't interview me, buddy. Man, I was gonna interview you anyway. You got 3 songs and it sounds like you recorded on your iPhone, buddy. Sounds trash. Anyway, I'm talking my shit this episode, boy. I'm talking my shit, all right? It's a 2-year anniversary, okay? It's a 2-year anniversary. I definitely just clipped right there. But look, man, people are gonna critique you. When you put yourself out there, what do you expect? Yeah, it hurt a little bit if someone's talking to me, saying that about me. It hurts. That hurts more than saying my music sucks, because I am being as personable as possible on this podcast. I ain't trying to talk a certain way for this podcast. I'm not gonna lie. Those first few episodes, I was definitely talking like a little differently, but I was trying to find myself in terms of that like funny podcast persona. You know what I mean? So that was just me. I would talk like this sometimes, and I would, get into a little voice. I was trying to find myself. If you go back, to some of the earlier episodes, man. I mean, I was talking funny, and then when I started this podcast, I was kind of in a crazy mindset. I was very inspired after coming back from a trip in Montreal, and I think from there it brought a lot of ego-ness to me. And I graduated college, came back from vacation. I had this dope idea. I hit up a bunch of people that I shouldn't have hit up, and to this day, I'm still like wondering to myself why I did that. You know what I mean? Like why I had to just send all those texts out to those people. But I was hungry, man. I was hungry. I was determined. I was excited to start this new thing. And I knew the idea was great. I knew it was something I could take on because I love this shit, man. I love podcasting. I think this is one of the coolest mediums out there, man. I mean, you can consume this media doing whatever you want. And it's anything. I mean, people are making documentary podcasts, crime podcasts, interview podcasts, all like TV shows, man, in podcast form. And you don't got to sit down anywhere. You can still move on, do what you got to do, and have that on. I think that's awesome. I think that's such a cool medium. And we're in the year 2020 now, and we're finally starting to truly see the power of the podcast business. I mean, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. I mean, look at that contract Joe Rogan signed. The shit Joe Budden's talking about, dealing with Spotify and the Ringer. Like these platforms, man, are taking advantage of it, man, and seizing the opportunity because they know that this is a field that's going to be prosperous, man. And I just know I got to stay consistent because you can't talk about what hasn't been done. And I learned that extremely hard from doing this podcast, man. I see too many artists talk that talk and they don't walk that walk. And not even just artists too, people in general just talk and they don't back it up. And, starting this podcast was almost that I'm going to show you, like this podcast, like I'm going to show you I can do this. And I'm on episode 74, 2-year anniversary. I think I am showing that, and I will continue to show that because the job is not done yet. I can't slow up. I still have more to put to the table. I would love to add to this one-man team if anyone's willing to. I mean, I'll use this episode for that. If y'all are willing to if you, I don't even know where I need help on, but I'll figure something out, man. I'll put it out there because I think it's very important to have a team. It's not like I'm avoiding having a team. It's just that I'm kind of a control freak. So the fact that I have control over everything and I don't have to wait on anybody or pay is a very good thing to have. I want to shout out to By Burnsy and Sauls for helping the podcast start off for those first few episodes. I'm still using the sound that Saul sent me at the end, that the boom at the end. Josh sent me that sound. So I'm not doing everything necessarily by myself, and I haven't at the beginning, and I had to ask a bunch of questions and a bunch of advice and trial and error. So it took a ton of stuff to get to this point that I'm at now, man. But I'm extremely happy for where this podcast is gonna go, man. And what else is in store. I'm just very excited for that, man. It's funny. I had another thing I had to talk about on here. I wrote a couple stuff down, man. I want to talk about something here. Just about no more genres in music. I saw like a post on Instagram on it. I wish I had tagged it, but I didn't. But yeah, it's just talking about how like genres is becoming less of this thing. Like I see like a bunch of songs that are like under alternative or pop, and I'm like, or R&B or just hip hop, all of it, man. I'm like, this pop song sounds like an R&B song. This R&B song sounds like a rap song. This rap song sounds like a pop song. Like, I really think we're gonna get to the point, man, where we just stop listing the genre. Or like I see certain platforms will say like this song came out this year and it's pop. Like we should just not say the genre. Like the genre should be a very, very, it should be only meant for like playlisting. And then like when it gets to that point, the lines can be even more so blurred then, because there's just everything's just coming together, man. And I really think EDM had a lot to do with that too. I mean, hip hop is obviously is pop now, so hip hop is first things first. Hip hop did that, but EDM I feel like has a big part in the fact that these genres are just blending so well, man. I mean, I heard a song that had like house, dubstep, and like punk rock in it. It's with Illenium, I Prevail, and Excision. I mean, like that's crazy, man. Like we are, we're really seeing that genres are becoming less of a thing. Another thing we're seeing becoming less of a thing is songs getting shorter, man. I don't know about y'all, but I can feel when a song is over 4 minutes. Like I can feel it, especially some songs like they just run a little too long, man. And I'm like, I like the 2-minute songs, man. I ain't gonna front. Those hit, pretty nicely, especially when they go really hard, man. I feel like the 2:30 mark leaves enough room for you not to lead the listener to like step away. It's just enough time, especially if you're making like a hardcore track. You know what I mean? But like if you're making a song that's like switching up a lot, I guess you can get away with having the song over like 3 minutes 30 seconds. But those are a couple of trends that I'm seeing now. Songs getting shorter, genres becoming less of a thing, and I wanted to address that because I feel like I don't know how many people care about that, but I think it's something to keep in mind, man, because it's gonna really change the landscape of whatever is popping. And I think for artists, it's very important to see or even predict what could be the thing that pops off in the next 5 years. And it's very tough to look at now. It's always tough to look at. If you could, spot it out, you'd be a millionaire, like they say. For instance, like I remember seeing an interview with Juice WRLD talking about 808s and Heartbreak, and it's something I agree with too that he said. And he was talking about how like Kanye West literally traveled into 2008, traveled in time to 2015, and went back to 2008. That's what that album sounds like, and that's the type of music that I think we are ready to see. And it's hard to say it in the moment. I think people realize, definitely during the moment, no one realized that 808s and Heartbreak would be as monumental as it was, because it got shit on. Autotune was still getting. Look at Autotune now. No one has any problem with Autotune, like for the most part, unless like the real hip hop heads. They're like in the real like the passionate singers, even though their singers are using Autotune too. Just a little, just a salt-based sprinkle of auto-tune they use. The great singers, not the me singers. I'm not really a singer. I'm a studio singer. Like I'm talking about the real singers. Everybody uses a little bit of auto-tune, but look how trends change and stuff like that changes. So I suggest for anyone to be on the lookout for that, man. I think it's a trend that if you can keep your eye on, I think you can really capitalize on it, because I'm hearing some crazy songs, man. Some crazy music, like it's really pushing boundaries, man. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but that new Sada Baby song, like for instance, like like that the way that song bops, man, and it's just like there's something different about it. That's just one example. I can't think of any more. But like we need things to push boundaries to just do things differently. And yeah, just keep your eye on that, man. One more thing that I had written on there that I wanted to talk about, man, before I wrap this one up is just living up to the expectations, you know. I think one thing I feel when people have these expectations for life is that they look at their age and other people's accomplishments when they don't realize that certain things take time, man. Like, certain things just take time, you know? Like, when I started this podcast, you know, people expected it. I don't know what they expected. I honestly don't. But look at it now, man. I think I mean, I think a few people out there, you know, expected me to be like, you know, making like 50K a year off this podcast by now. But those are probably the people that don't understand how long these things take. I mean, you know, artists and podcasters, you know, they won't tell you about the times that they had to go through not making money for 4, 5, 6, 7 years. You know what I mean? When it comes to like the music, like I've been making music since I was 15. I am 24. I just got money off of music this year. That's 9 years. And it's not even that much money. It's not even that much. But what I say to that is that sometimes you're not like you're not supposed to achieve certain things at a certain time, man. God has a plan for everybody. And I'm not even like a religious person like that. But like there's a plan for all of us, man. And I truly feel for myself, you know, when it comes to that, you know, patience, man. I tell anybody, you gotta have serious patience. Not everybody is going to, you know, drive around in that Benz at the age of 22 that they actually purchased with their money and they're doing well and they got their own crib. Like they really balling. Like it's very far and few in between, man. Like if y'all were to do the statistics on like just how money is distributed and like one percenters and like the super rich, man, there's not a lot of those people in this world. And there's a lot of fronters out there. A lot of people who pretend like they make a certain amount of money when they really don't. People who pretend to be more popular than they really are. So those are things that I think you just have to like block out, man. You got to remember a lot of people are fronting out here. It's a lot of cap out here in these streets, especially on social media. A shit ton of cap, if I will say. And you have to be wary of that, man. A lot of these people out here ain't as balling and as successful as you might think. You know, they might have a couple plaques, but what's their bank account looking? You know, what's their mental health looking like? You know, these things I think are what matters, and integrity, man. I got integrity. You know what I mean? Like if I you know, there's certain things that I want it my way. But obviously you gotta do certain things that you don't want to do in order to get to that spot that you need to be. And that's just how it is, man. You know, when it comes to living up to these expectations that people have bestowed upon you, whether it's your family or close friends, you just have to understand that you are in your own time to get it done. Because I thought, you know, the first time I was gonna ever make music was when I was 19, 20. And around that time, I thought something was coming up around, but I didn't understand the game like I do now. It takes time. Sometimes, as much as people could tell you what to do, sometimes you just need to grow in yourself and find it in you. No matter what anyone tells you. You know, it doesn't matter if anyone gives you a blueprint. It's up to you to read the blueprint and apply it. And so, yeah, just focus on you, man. Stop worrying about other people's stuff. And I think, you know, with social media, it's extremely hard to do that. I have to cut off how much I check social media, especially Instagram. I think with Twitter, you know, it's more words, and so it's just a different culture. I think Instagram is a lot of flashiness, a lot of people trying to show off, look cool, all this. And I think everyone's guilty of that. Everyone's guilty of trying to look good, you know, cool for the gram, you know, for the gram this, clout that, you know. It's like, you know, And don't even get me started on the clout chasers. You know what I'm saying? So that's like a whole nother thing in and of itself, man. So what I just say, y'all, just focus on you. A lot of times people just capping about their lives. They ain't really balling like that. And if they are balling like that, so what? You know, you work hard and you'll get to a certain point someday too. And I guess that's all I have to say, man. I want to thank every single listener that's ever listened to this podcast. This is listened to around the world. You know what I'm saying? This is, I've had episodes get a ton of downloads. I've had, a few accomplishments I don't brag about on here, man. Because I truly don't feel the job is done yet. And so I just want to say shout out to everyone that has ever been a guest on TempahZone podcast. I want to thank you for being on this platform. Without you, I couldn't do this podcast. I ain't trying to run a solo episode every time. You crazy? I ain't a comedian. That's for comedians, man. Comedians do solo episodes. I mean, I could do solo episodes more, but that's not the model. I mean, I'll do these every now and then, but it's not every episode and only this. So without the guests that I've had on in the past, this podcast wouldn't have been possible, and y'all spreading the word about it. It has only helped this platform grow, and I am so freaking grateful for that and thankful for that. You've no idea. To get the support from artists that I have gotten with this podcast is just. I can't be any more thankful, man. And shout out to all the listeners, man. Oh my God, I mean, what can I do without y'all, man? It's so awesome that people tune in and want to hear me talk. They want to hear me talk to other people, man. I thought this wasn't going to work out, you know what I mean? But I got a ton of people who are tuned into this thing and want to see it really shine and blow up and become something I don't think even myself could have dreamed it would have. So with that, I'll say thank y'all. Episode 74 more and 74 more, 74 more and 74 more. Ton of episodes, man. We're gonna be like Joe Rogan with episode 1600. You know what I'm saying? That's the goal. That's the dream. This is, the work's never over, man. It's never done, never satisfied. As you know what I mean? But I want to end it with a thank you. I want to end this episode with thank you to all the guests I've had on and all the listeners who tune into this. Because without y'all, this wouldn't be possible. It just wouldn't be. And I want to say to all the people that have helped produce this podcast in any form or fashion and help throw in ideas, I want to say thank you as well. So yeah, let me cut it off here. Tune in, y'all. We have another episode for y'all next week. All right? Peace.